Hi everyone, Mon here and welcome to the channel. This channel is called The Soul Savant, and I'm not the only soul savant on this planet at the moment. We are all soul savants. However, some of us have been working on our soul for a very, very long time, and we are very aware that there's more to this life, and that awareness may have started when we were very young, or it could have come in our teens, our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, because that's how long we're living these days. So I invite you all to be a soul savant. I don't expect this channel to attract thousands of subscribers, because the topics that we're going to discuss here are what you could call, up until now, a little taboo. Now, this first episode, we'll call it, of the Soul Savant channel is called Who Do You Think You Are? Or we can rephrase that with a little more love behind the question, who do you think you are? Now, a few of you know me and you know my history from my other channel, The Intuitive Soul Savant. With this channel, we're going to refrain from occult sciences, okay, because many people haven't studied astrology. However, they may have studied Christianity, Buddhism, they may be Muslims, even Hindus. It doesn't really matter. Okay, we really want to refrain from religion here, and I want to refrain from religion. Not that there's anything wrong with religion. However, once you come to a level of awareness that religion or any occult sciences, whichever way it gets you to the point on your spiritual journey where you are able to put down those studies and those teachings and just be in the world. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about religion. When is it time that we can call ourselves enlightened? At what point can we speak out like I'm doing on this channel and say, I am enlightened? I am an enlightened being, no less than the Buddha, no less than Yehoshua, the Jesus Christ. We are all humans, and being a human, there is never perfection. Okay, even Jesus, he even said that, I am just a man. And the Buddha renounced his human self to go and meditate to find enlightenment, which he did. And then he came back to teach others. So it is teachable. I think in modern times, we do know now that we're not waiting on a savior anymore. We are our own saviors. Jesus Christ isn't coming on a cloud to save everybody. Once you have spiritual maturity, you understand that. So I would call myself an enlightened being, and it's taken me 60 years to be able to get to this point where I can say that I am an enlightened being. Now, I know that that statement alone may attract comments from others that find this channel. I'm not going to be advertising this channel. I believe that I'm meant to be doing this channel. There's no doubt about that. But the people that need to subscribe to this channel will be attracted to this channel. It's not my business. All I know is that I am being obedient to my higher self. And my higher self is God. It's divinity. How do I know that? I meditate every day. I've been meditating for 20 years, on and off. I'm not perfect. However, meditation daily has become like cleaning my teeth now. My day is not complete without meditation, without me connecting to God, to divinity. And this is a progression. When I first came into the world, I was baptized a Catholic. And the Catholic religion can be dogmatic. There's no doubt about that. I then went to Bible college, to a Pentecostal Christian Bible college, which isn't as dogmatic. However, they have a belief that if you do not give your heart to Jesus Christ, you're going to hell. You will not be saved. I've been an astrologer for 40 years. I have dabbled and looked and searched high and low for peace and serenity. I have found peace and serenity in a 12-step prayer that I said over and over and over again. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, accept this life and accept each moment of this life, accept where I'm at. That's what that's about in that prayer. Accept the things I cannot change. Right now, I'm here. I'm alive. Can't change that. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Courage to change the things I can. And the wisdom to know the difference between those two. What can I change? What can't I change? If I can change something, I need courage to change that because I'm in fear of that. And these are the experiences that I had along the way. I'm making this channel because I am in peace and serenity all day, every day. And it's been like that for months. The only time I step out of serenity is if I lack discernment, if I'm lacking discernment in a moment and I do not use my wisdom. However, it doesn't grab me anymore. It doesn't grab me, and I don't beat myself up by making a mistake. I'm still enlightened. Even though I've made a mistake in that moment, I take it on board as wisdom. What does it mean to be enlightened? We're coming to understand now that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Spiritual beings having a human experience. Now, when we know that and believe that, we're not living in the three-dimensional reality of life anymore. We're living in the fourth dimension when we understand that we're spiritual beings having a human life. We step into the fifth dimension when we actually operate and live our life from that place. It's all well and good to know that, but to actually make our choices day to day, well, we're actually in the fifth dimension. There's no one out there that can measure this at this moment in time. I'm speaking to mid-60s borns, late 80s borns. And the reason why I use those two groups, and there are other groups, no doubt. I'm not the only one on this planet that feels the way I do. but I think I'm probably small number that is actually speaking it out to others in the hope that they will own their enlightenment and their wholeness. Because many have been studying, seeking, and then finding what they're looking for. And why have we done that? Usually because of the pain. So when I say the mid-60s, they've been born when the planetary energies have formed sacred geometry, activations, geometry, mathematics, which has given these souls a harder life than most, than what we would call younger souls. Souls that join the life-death circle. We also know that we are multidimensional now because of the expansion of knowledge, scientific knowledge. We know that reincarnation isn't really the correct word. I remember when I was very young, reincarnation was being discussed. Even though it's an Eastern philosophy, was an Eastern philosophy. And I knew that I was not here for more lifetimes. This was going to be it. I had no idea how I could make that happen or how that has happened. But here I sit at 60 years of age and I see it very clearly now. I make choices now with the awareness that this is it. What are the choices that I make? I don't become attached, which is what the Buddha came off the mountain with, or out of the cave, whatever the story is. And he was wondering what suffering was about, because humans suffer. And he came to the awareness that we suffer because we have attachments to a hologram. I am of the belief that this is all a hologram. And the reason I can see it is because my eyes, and also the teachings from being a child, the programming of the human being. We're told that this color is black and pink. And so that's what we get into our mind. If we were told that this color was yellow, then that's what we would think. We would think it was yellow. So everything is being taught. And now that we have computers, you can imagine it as everything's been programmed into ourselves. And some of us, the older souls who have chosen these very challenging sacred geometry aspects, we've known that our lives, just from looking with our eyes, are a lot more difficult and have a lot more challenges than others. But we've kept on keeping on. And all I can speak for is myself. And the reason I kept going, seeking, striving for enlightenment is because it was so damn painful. It was such a painful existence. And that was my motivation. Not that I'm any more special than anybody out there, but it was the pain of living that motivated me to keep seeking. And today, I will say that I'm enlightened. I'm not the enlightened one. I am one of the enlightened. And there's a lot of talk about the collective now. And all I need to do is take responsibility for my energy on the planet. And by being enlightened, I am light. And we're going to discuss the light body on this channel, but that isn't today. What would stop us from speaking the way I'm speaking today? Well, there's a thing out there called the imposter syndrome, and I'm sure you've heard of it, because the mind is the last frontier of humanity. And the mind is a big liar, because the mind will only tell the being what the mind has been programmed to believe. So everything that the mind believes can be reprogrammed to another belief. But to be enlightened is the awareness of all of those beliefs, and that they're all stories. So that when you are in deep meditation on the breath, the gift of life, when we leave this body, we stop breathing. When we're in meditation, we connect with divinity. And that is that word love. It is a feeling. Love flows through us. I don't love anybody. I allow love to flow through me. If I have resistance because I have a belief that what I'm loving on is no good or doesn't deserve my love, then the love flow stops. So no one is more loving than anybody else. One has more resistance to allowing love to flow through the being. So we really have the ability to love everybody, and depending on our beliefs of whether that being or that situation deserves our love. So we therefore are playing gods, in a sense. In Australia, we have this thing called tall poppy syndrome. And you may have heard of it in other countries, but what it means here is that if anybody's doing well for themselves, then others try and pull them down. It's like a form of jealousy, okay? So, you know, I half expect that on this channel, you know, anybody that does find it may just give us heaps here, but I really don't care, because I'm not worried about anybody else anymore. They are a part of the hologram. Really, I'm the only person here until I allow a belief that there is others out there. If I go into a cave, there is only myself. But if my mind's thinking of others, my mother or the past or the lover or the whatever, well, then they become real. If my mind doesn't think about those things, they're non-existent. And this is the way to enlightenment, is detaching from everything out there. An awareness of it being there, yes, of course. It's in our faces in modern life and with technology. However, we don't need to attach to it. So all of you can call yourself enlightened as well, depending on how strong your imposter syndrome is. Where does our imposter come from? Usually our early programming, conditioning. How dare you? Who do you think you are saying that you're enlightened? Oh my God. I don't care, because I've come to the realization that we're forever learning. The world is always, the universe is expanding. I'm expanding. I'm never going to get it 100% correct. However, I am enlightened. I don't have those voices anymore, which firstly would have been my parental voices, because they were very judgy and narcissistic and had tall poppy syndrome in the family, that my light was too bright. And my light is too bright for many people in this day and age. So I discern where I put my energy now. not so much for protection, but just to be able to keep that high frequency of my light so that I can keep shining and I don't get caught up in the riffraff of others' imposter syndromes. Because we've never been allowed to say that we're enlightened. We've always given that to the ascended masters, to Jesus, to Allah, to Buddha, Saint Germain, Archangel Michael. That's all that I give credence to, because it's all a story. I understand it's all a story. The hologram is a story. The matrix, it's a story. It's all a story that we tell ourselves, that we believe in. When we stop believing in all of that, it has no effect on us. So if you're a little confronted by what I'm saying, own it. You can own it. And if you are confronted, it will be your imposter syndrome that's saying, I can't say that. Well, when can we say that? How many lives is it going to take for us to be able to leave the life-death circle? And it's a karmic circle. We'll discuss karma on this channel for sure. They're the voices, the imposter syndrome is the voices of negativity in the mind. But once we've done and delved into the shadow work and the conditioning of our mind from our ancestors and what they haven't up till now been able to evolve through, then we are enlightened. We are enlightened on the enlightenment path. And this may not be our last life. It may be our next to last life. It's up to you. You get to choose. What I do know is that when you pass from this body, whatever you're attached to when you leave, once you leave, if you're attached to that, you will be back, because the attachment of we'll call it love. You'll call it love, right? But as I said, love flows through us. But, we have families. I don't have family anymore. And I'm not special because I've been able to lose these attachments. They were taken from me. It was my karma that I ended up without any family. And that was very painful to go through that because of the conditioning that we must all have family. And by nature, I respect families. However, where we are in 2026, the collective is going through a evolution. Some people will use the word ascension, but each individual has to take responsibility for themselves here. But when we have so many attachments that are our identity, we identify with those attachments. I am a mother of that family. I am a father of that family. I am a doctor of all these people. I am a political figure. I am a teacher. There's so many identities that we can attach to when really all we are is spiritual beings having a human existence. So our identification with who we are can get in the way of us saying that we are enlightened and believing we are enlightened and behaving like we are enlightened. That's the main one, behaving like we are enlightened. We're still human. However, we master the ability to choose to make enlightened choices in our day-to-day lives. Now, out there in the spiritual realm, if that's what you want to call it, when I first started studying, it was called the New Age. Now it's the Ascension Age. There's so much information out there. There's so many stories out there that we can latch onto and believe in, and believe that they are right and the others are wrong. Well, that's ridiculous. I wouldn't imagine any of my viewers here would believe that, but if you do, let's have a chat. Some people call themselves star seeds. Some people call themselves light workers. Some people call themselves earth angels. I mean, there's that many labels. You pick a label. I've picked the soul savant as a label, but I'm not attached to that label. It's just something that I found as a moniker for where I'm at. And I don't own that, as I said. You too are soul savants, experts in evolving through the human conditioning and embodying the soul. Now, if we speak of ourselves as star seeds and light workers, and we've attached an identity, and we've also separated ourselves from the others, but we are all one. That's another topic that we will discuss, the law of one, on this channel. But today it is all about, who do you think you are? What I do know is I'm not simulated. I'm not AI. I'm not artificial. I'm a soul experiencing a human existence on this big blue planet that we call Earth. My ancestors, Indigenous ancestors, well, Gaia. I'm talking to you from Australia. The mother, the planet is our mother with Indigenous beliefs. Some would say that we're not pure enough to be enlightened. Purity is something that happens over time with our seeking and our searching. We get to a point where we don't need to steal anymore. We don't need to put another person down to make ourselves feel better. We don't need to be violent. We can drive in horrific traffic without causing road rage, getting out of our cars and belting someone over the head with a whatever. There's many things that are not pure about the human existence. However, over time and with wisdom, especially with old souls, we become pure by nature. It feels uncomfortable within our body to practice impurity. But there is no judgment. There is no judgment there. You can be an enlightened person and still smoke cigarettes. Think about that. You could be an enlightened person and still use swear words. You could be an enlightened person and still love sexual intercourse. There's no judgment. It's up to you to own your awareness, to embody your soul. Now, sometimes this takes a lot of work, and we call that work shadow work. And I discussed it. And we need to come to the awareness of the conditioning, our early conditioning. Now, if you're born into a family where everything was beautiful and love and your individuality was honoured, fabulous. Good on you. But most of the souls that I've met that I would call enlightened were born into families, and it was very difficult. Very difficult. So they started off life in a very difficult way. But I believe that that difficulty was the key to their enlightenment, because they sought for release. And on that journey of seeking, they became finders. I talked about the multidimensionality. And I want to stay very grounded on this channel. Okay? Online, I cannot join a lot of groups because it's not grounded enough for me. If you call yourself a starseed, well, how is that going to benefit yourself, firstly, others, the planet? By calling yourself a starseed, by calling yourself a light worker. What does that mean? Calling yourself an angelic human being, which I identify most closely. And I also identify with being a starseed from Andromeda and light worker. But none of those labels fit with me anymore. An enlightened human being fits with me now. Once you know what you know what you know. And so it is a journey. We are souls, spirit beings having a human existence. And we're all plugged into divinity, which has been labelled God, our maker. Come from there, and that's where we return to. So while we're here, it's very important to connect with that energy. The veil has been lifted. We are in new times, new energy. The planet in the universe isn't even where it was at when I was born. We're always changing. It's always changing. However, when I leave my mind in my body, so the hologram disappears. What planets? What universe? I'm just energy again. And that awareness is enlightenment. When we can live as enlightened beings day to day, incorporated into our day-to-day lives, wow, that's the magic of life. We do identify as a mother, as an office worker, as a healer, as this, as that, as this, as that. But they're just things that are keeping us busy in the collective, because that's where the collective is at. We are multidimensional. I am actually the captain of a ship out there. How about that? I experienced that in 2012. And the reason I don't bang on about that is because knowing that, being that, has no benefit to the planet or to anybody else at this time. So knowing that was wonderful, and then leaving that back in 2012, but it's still there. It's an awareness. So if anybody else told me that, I go, yeah, I agree. Yeah, me too. And there's many more awarenesses and knowledge that you guys would be able to bring to the table. I talked about the Ascended Masters and Archangel Michael and on and on. Da, da, da. I like to keep it very grounded and very simple because everything is a story. It's all a story. And humans tell stories. As long as we don't get attached to our stories as the be-all and end-all, then we can be a part of the story. We don't walk out into the world and poo-poo everything. Hey, it's all BS. I'm a spiritual being having a human existence and it's all story. Wisdom gives us the awareness. So today I ask you, who do you think you are? Own it. I'm going to own it here with you guys. And I may cop heaps of flack, but guess what? I don't think I will cop any more flack than what I've already copped from my own family and people in my life who have seen my light before I became aware of my light and tried to shut that light down. Because usually the enlightened ones are quite humble. They don't want to say that. It's taken me months and months to make this video right now. Back and forth with my higher self. But I'm making this video in the hope that those that are attracted will find comfort that they're not alone, that enlightenment, you keep it simple. You keep it very simple. We don't get caught up in too many stories. However, as humans, we need stories to connect with each other. Otherwise, I'd be my own collective. But I'm not. I'm part of the one, all of us here together. When you're an enlightened being, you have compassion. Like Yehoshua brought to this planet. Whether he lived or he didn't live, it doesn't matter. This book is the most published book. It's the Bible. It's the most published book on planet. And his messages were truth and still are truth today. He told his disciples and the rest of us that we too could do as he has done. And even more. Now, why would people have believed that if it wasn't possible? There's many, many, many things on this planet that haven't yet been released that would blow people's minds. Not our minds, because our minds can't be blown anymore. We've blown our own minds. I've jumped dimensions. I've been chased in other dimensions. I've never told anybody that publicly, and we will discuss that. We will discuss that, and that will come into our multi-dimensionality. Now, I also believe that we can live longer than 100 years, and I also believe that we can reverse our aging. And I'm going to do a big teaching on that. I have a book here, my first astrology teacher, Linda Goodman. This is called Star Signs. There's a whole chapter in there about immortality. Believe it or not. But now that we've owned up to who we are enlightened ones, old souls. We've been here many, many times. We knew that this life was going to be tough. But we came back to cram lessons that we needed to learn as souls. Mine was about emotions and connection with family. karma, family karma. That was what I've come back here. I remember other dimensions as a human being in a cave for the whole lot. I've even been to that cave twice this life in India. I was led there. I didn't go seeking that. I was led there. So you too will probably have a similar story. We didn't go looking for all these far out situations. We experienced them. And because of the tall poppy syndrome and imposter, we don't tell people because they'll think we're crazy. I don't care. I'm done now with that. I don't want to be a guru. I'm not the only one here. And I need you guys to keep me honest because I have in my blueprint, my human blueprint, I have a sacred geometry aspect that is taking me into belief. What do I believe? And I've run out of what to believe, really. So with this awareness, it's going to be very interesting the next 14 years. And I'm not coming to you as a guru. We are all saviors, our own saviors. And what are we saving ourselves from? Suffering. So if we're not suffering, how do we live our day-to-day life? In peace and serenity. And what does peace and serenity feel like? Well, it's quite boring, I'll tell you that much. If you're used to drama and dysfunction and chaos, when you live in peace and serenity, boring could be the word, but then you get used to it. It's boring because we're used to chaos. When the chaos dissipates and we're in peace and serenity, it is peace and serenity. And within is just so beautiful. Life is beautiful. However, at this time, 2026, I keep a very hermited life because chaos is going on around me in other people's lives. I'm not a savior to them, so I don't go and rescue anybody anymore unless they knock at the door and ask me a question, unless they've made a booking to come and have my hands laid on them, which I've been doing for 16 years. I don't tell them that I'm like Jesus and I can heal them or anything. They tell me how wonderful they feel when they leave. They look into my eyes. They're convicted by my eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul. When the eyes project peace and serenity, the other sees that as their reflection. So I think I've spoken enough today about who do you think you are. Just a love heart in the comments would be great, just to know that you've heard what I am sharing here today, and I have no shame. All shame has left this being all through that shadow work. And I think my ancestors are pretty happy too that I've been able to do this work that they weren't able to do, not because of anything about themselves, but the times, sign of the times. It's the times now. It's the time for enlightenment. I could add so much astrology to this, and I'm not going to, because a lot of people, like I said, don't know it and it gets confusing. So let's just talk about enlightenment and the topics around living as an enlightened person in modern day life, with jobs, with all of the distractions that are out there. Okay, so namaste. I see divinity in you, and I know that you are enlightened, and you are beautiful, and love flows through you from God, the divine, source, whatever you want to label it. Okay. Big love to you, and thank you so very much.